Hello there, you affable little lobsters, and thank you for joining me again in the den. Now, today I'd like to talk about who I personally believe to be the bravest and most selfless workers there are. Bus drivers. Those unsung heroes sat in their little perspex cells making sure kids can get to college and old biddies can get their shopping home. Without them, civilization would grind to a halt. I mean, without them, druggies would have to walk to get their drugs. But now they can just have a piss and a nap upstairs whilst the driver unwaveringly takes them into town. They don't discriminate, but my god do they put up with some shit. See, I'm from the civilized north, so up here, bus drivers probably get a little bit of verbal abuse at the worst. But down south, it's really sad when someone who's just trying to do their job and deliver a service has to put up with the bullshit and japery of the general public. In my opinion, every bus driver should have a button which electrocutes every little shit stain that's standing on the other side of the glass. Then you can just roll them back onto the street and carry on worry-free. Anyway, I've digressed so much I probably shouldn't have wasted any more time with this sentence. Now to the important stuff. Today we are playing a game aptly named Bus Driver. And it probably has one of the most unassuming covers I've ever seen. I mean, it's definitely got buses. As you can imagine, when I saw this bad lad on the shelf for 50p, I had to pick it up and see if it was as boring as it looked. Although, to be fair, after looking at the pictures on the back and reading the blurb here, I think I might have been catfished. This could actually be a legit game. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm welcomed by some music that has absolutely no right to be in a game about buses. I actually caught myself dancing away to it when I was testing the CD worked. The fuck? It's fucking key change, are you having a laugh? So apart from the awesome tunes, we also get a glimpse of the game through the background video in the menu. It shows a game with decent graphics, a variety of buses to drive, and even a somewhat varied landscape. So far though, I'm skeptical. I still think this is Dave, 45-year-old lorry driver from Alabama, masquerading as Candice, the 21-year-old swimwear model from Hollywood who likes beaches, cleavage, and GHB cocktails and dislikes monogamy.
Your daughter's a liar.
My daughter's a liar? What about Ramon? What about Ramon? What about Ramon? What about Ramon?
I guess the only real way to find out who we've been smashing here is to give the game a try. First of all, I thought I'd just throw in a quick glimpse of the controls for the game. This is them in their entirety. Not very complicated, highlights being indicators and mirrors? Now, I must admit, we have what seems like a super varied set of scenarios and even a ton of different buses to unlock. Spoiler, I don't get off the first set of missions. Don't be disappointed in me, I get too much of that. Each scenario has a little blurb in the corner to tell you what's going on, and I mean, as much as the scenario details will help for some people who are trying to immerse themselves in a real bus driver RPG experience, but in reality they don't really change anything apart from which direction you drive in. So with all that being said, I guess we just dive right in with scenario 1. Today we are tasked with taking a group of smelly school kids to a swimming competition, no doubt so they can all shit in the pool and give everyone pink eye. But a job's a job, so let's get to traumatizing some youngsters. As you can probably see here, when we get into the game, the buses aren't as fun to drive as you may have expected. The acceleration, the top speed, the deceleration all work very slowly and deliberately. I mean, I'm sure this is true with real buses, but my god, it makes for a clunky gaming experience. I honestly think the fixed camera angles are the biggest killer though. Check out here for example. I'm not supposed to pass through a red light, but once I pull up to it, I can no longer see the fucking thing, and there is no free camera to speak of. This usually ends up in another penalty that I'm sure you've noticed popping up at the top of the screen so far. The penalty and reward system is actually pretty in-depth for this game, but I'll get to that in a second. Ultimately though, your goal in each scenario is to start at point A and end at point B, with a varying number of pickups along the way. In the first mission, for example, we had to start at our depot, pick up kids from 3 separate stops, and then ferry them to the final stop, being the sports centre. Pretty straightforward, but then again, that is a bus driver's job at its most basic interpretation. Now I'm going to play through level 2 and 3 as I explain the penalty and reward system. Most of the time you will be constantly complimented or reprimanded depending on how well you drive. This goes from basic stuff like not using indicators before changing lanes, driving on the wrong side of the road and running red lights, to more nuanced tasks like taking care of your customers. This means not driving like a lunatic and making them nauseated, not braking too hard and having all the passengers smash their face into the seat in front, and more importantly, being on time. This one is a trifle more complicated because you actually have to keep to a schedule, meaning if you arrive at a stop 30 seconds early, you're required to sit there and wait for 30 seconds as to not run ahead. Now all of these aspects might make the game sound interesting or decent and even worth playing, but honestly I feel the gameplay and the camera angles will kill any urges you have to keep going. It can be fun to try and drive really well and go for a good driver's high score, but the random nature of junction safety in the game due to lack of camera angles will inevitably ruin your run. All that being said, you can tell the developers really gave it a bloody good go, and it definitely will keep someone entertained for a period of time. But honestly, it's not going to be on anybody's top 10 list anytime soon. Well, it seems that Bus Driver wasn't just masquerading as crap, it is crap. I will concede it's not a complete broken mess. I mean, it does have some decent music, quite a lot of levels, even decent graphics. Although the bus handling does leave a lot to be desired. I mean, the controls do work, but they could be a lot more responsive. I think for me the biggest problem with this game though is the fixed camera angle. You can see what's directly in front of you, but that's about it. You can't look left or right, so if you're entering a junction you kind of just have to wing it and hope there isn't an entire family about to. Of course, anyone who takes these sim games seriously would really want to see a first person view with a full movable field of view, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, imagine actually pulling up to a junction and looking directly ahead of you and directly behind you and just... But all that being said, if this game did have those camera tweaks and I maybe had a steering wheel to plug in, then this would probably actually be playable. So that really wraps up my review for Bus Driver, and now all is said and done, I'll put this notably mediocre game back on the shelf and bid you farewell.